children, here next we are going to discuss about that some important points related to that pairs of angles. Okay, already we learned about that pairs of angles, no? So here from that only some important points. So what is that? First one means in complementary angles, okay, the first point is in complementary angles, two angles must be acute. Two angles must be acute means here complementary angles means two angles, the sum of two angles must be forms here 90 degrees, no? So those two complementary angles, each angle is acute angle. Okay, just one example, 60 degrees plus 30 degrees. Which is equals to 90 degrees. So we know that 60 degrees and 30 degrees, those two also complementary angles only, no, here. Okay, when you observe that 60 degrees, individual angle 60 degrees, that is which type of angle? Already we discussed in the types of angles, individual angles now. So that is acute angle or not here? Okay, 60 degrees means greater than 0 degrees and less than 90 degrees. Okay, so we can say that 60 degrees is acute angle, and come to that 30 degrees. 30 degrees also greater than 0 degrees and less than 90 degrees. So we can say that this is also a acute angle only, no? So in the pair of complementary angles, those two angles must be acute. If you take that 89 degrees and 1 degree, okay, 89 plus 1 is also equals to 90 degrees, no? So we can say that 89 degrees and 1 degree. So those two also complementary angles only. So when you observe that 1 degree, that is also acute angle. And when you observe that 89 degrees, that is also acute angle only, no, that is also. So that's why here two angles must be acute in that complementary angles. That is the first point. Okay. Next one, in supplementary angles. In supplementary angles, one acute angle and one obtuse angle or two right angles. Okay, once observe that next point, that is in supplementary angles, one of the angle must be acute, another angle is obtuse angle. Here two acute angles cannot form that supplementary angles, right? What is the highest acute angle? What is the maximum acute angle we can take here? That is 89 degrees, and here also take that maximum acute angle, that is 89 degrees only, no? So 89 plus 89 is equals to 178, which is not equals to 180 degrees. So two acute angles cannot form supplementary angle. Okay, that is another point. Two acute angles cannot form supplementary angles, and in the same way two obtuse angles, take that 120 degrees and another one 130 degrees, this is not equals to 180 degrees, no? Okay, least, okay, which means minimum obtuse angle, what is that here? Greater than 90 degrees means minimum I am going to consider it as 91 degrees, and take that another angle also equal 91 degrees. So 91 plus 91, which is equals to 182 degrees, which is greater than 180, which means not equal to 180 degrees only, no? So that's why two obtuse angles also cannot form a pair of supplementary angles. Two obtuse angles also cannot form supplementary angles, and in the same way two acute angles also cannot form that obtuse angles. That's why here one of the angle must be acute, another angle must be okay, one of the angle must be acute angle, another angle must be obtuse angle. Is it clear? Okay. So just one example, 120 degrees and here 60 degrees. 120 degrees is obtuse angle and 60 degrees is acute angle. Okay, so those two forms here supplementary angle. So, or else we can take here two right angles also. Why? Because in this case already we discussed about two angles are equal. Then those two also forms here supplementary angles. Now which angles are equal here and which angles forms here supplementary? That is nothing but 90 degrees. Okay, so 90 degrees plus 90 degrees which is equals to 180 degrees. No, so 90 degrees is supplementary angle of 90 degrees, and here the second angle is a supplement of that first angle. Okay, so 90 degrees we have the name. What is that? 90 degrees is a right angle. So two right angles also forms here supplementary angles. Okay, that is the second point. So here just to see the test statements. Here linear pair must be formed by two adjacent angles. What already we discussed about that linear pair? In a linear pair, two adjacent angles forms 180 degrees. Then we will call those two angles forms linear pair. Those two angles forms a linear pair, and here we are saying those two angles must be adjacent angles. Okay. But here in converse say that adjacent angles need not always adjacent angles. Okay. Adjacent angles forms here linear pair. Okay. But always need not be form a linear pair. Why? Because here just take that. Here I am going to take that two angles. Here A and B. Here also we can say that A and B are adjacent angles also. Okay, here also we can say that A and B are adjacent angles, but these two angles not forms here 180 degrees, and these two not forms here linear pair. Okay, so adjacent angles means it need not to form a linear pair, but for that linear pair must be angles are adjacent. Okay, that is the meaning of this point. Okay, so these all are the important points related to that pairs of angles. Okay. So next we need to discuss about that transversal. Okay, so transversal means what here? A line which cuts two or more lines. Two or more lines or straight lines at two or more distinct points. Okay, we will call that line is transversal. Okay, which means see that this is one of the straight line. This is another straight line. So here I am going to take that three straight lines L, M, N. Okay, one of that straight line which cuts that two or more lines, then we will call that line as transversal. So here which one is the transversal? Okay, here P is called that transversal. So according to the definition, one say that a line which cuts that two or more, which cuts the two or more lines at two or more distinct points. So here this is one of the point, and this is one of the point, and this is another point. So here P cuts that three straight lines at three distinct points. Distinct means three different points. Okay, so that's why here P is called transversal. Okay, not only 3 lines, here P cuts that 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines. So that's why here the definition is a line which cuts 2 or more straight lines at 2 or more distant points. Why I am saying here 2 or more means if the line cuts that 2 straight lines, then it cuts that 2 distant points. Okay, if the line cuts that 3 straight lines, then it forms here 3 distant points. If it cuts that 4 straight lines, then 4 different points or 4 distinct points will be formed. Okay, that's why a line which cuts 2 or more straight lines at 2 or more distinct points is called a transversal. So here which one is called transversal? P is called transversal. Okay, so here 2 lines I am saying, 2 lines are here either intersecting lines or parallel lines. Here we have the 2 conditions. The lines are either parallel lines or intersecting lines. First we will discuss about that intersecting lines. If the lines are intersecting, okay, here L, M, these 2 are intersecting lines or not? I drawn like this, these 2 are intersecting or not? Yes, these 2 are intersecting only. Why? Because here I kept that 2 arrow marks now. So extend this line. Okay, and extend this line. Somewhere you will get that some intersecting point, no? Somewhere those 2 lines meet at some other point. Okay, that's why we will call these 2 lines are intersecting lines. And here N is a transversal. Okay. N cuts that L and M. At 2 distant points here, this is A and this is B. Okay, so N is a transversal and that cuts at 2 distant points. One of the point is A, another point is B. Okay, now what is the distance between A, B? Okay, not here in that parallel lines we can say that the distance between any 2 points at any place on that parallel lines is always same. Already we discussed, no? So here the distance between AB is known as intercept. What we will call that? That is intercept. So here AB is called intercept. That means AB is nothing but the distance. Here this is for example 5 units. Then here the intercept AB is equals to 5 units or 5 centimeters like that. Okay, so that is the intercept. Once come to the topic. Okay, so once observe that here L and N. Once observe L and N. Line L and line L. Those 2 also intersecting lines only, no? These 2 lines are intersecting at a point A. Okay, and we know that in intersecting lines, how many angles will be formed at that common point? At that common point, 4 angles will be formed. How many angles? 4 angles. 1, 2, 3, 4. So at that one point, how many angles will be formed here? 4 different angles. And at this point also, when you observe that N and M, okay, when you observe that N and M, those 2 also intersecting lines only, no? And here the intersection point is B. Okay, once observe here, how many angles are there? Here again, 4 angles will be formed here. This is 5, 6, 7, 8. So, here N is a transversal which cuts that 2 different lines, no, 2 straight lines at 2 distinct points. At each point that transversal forms here 4 angles. How many angles? 4 angles. So total number of angles made by a transversal. Okay, a total number of angles made by a transversal if it cuts that 2 different straight lines. If it cuts that 2 straight lines, then how many angles will be formed? Means 8 angles will be formed. Okay, for example, here third line also there. Okay, third straight line also there. Now how many angles will be formed? Obviously here again one more 4 angles will be formed. Another 4 angles will be formed, means 8 plus 4. Totally 12 angles will be formed. So at that each point, transversal made here, angles made by transversal at each point Okay, so how many angles are there? 4 angles will be formed. Okay, so here 2 points there means 8 angles, 3 distant points there means 12 angles, 4 distant points there means 16 angles, and so on. Okay, now here classification of angles, which means angles made by a transversal. Okay. So see that angles made by a transversal. So here L and M are two straight lines and here N is a transversal. So here classification, first one is interior angles. Interior angles. So interior angles means angles which lies in between two straight lines. Okay, angles lies in between two straight lines. Okay, so here when you observe that lines, here L and M are two straight lines, no? So angles which are formed in between, or the angles which lies in between those two lines, so those angles we will call it as interior angles, which means the angles which lies inside of that lines. We will call those angles are interior angles. So here interior angles, which angles here? Angle 3, angle 4, angle 5, angle 6 are interior angles. Okay. Next one, exterior angles. Exterior angles. So here exterior angles means, in the name only there, exterior means angles formed outside of that, or angles lies outside of that lines. Okay, so outside of the lines means angles which lies outside. Okay, exterior of that lines, we will call those angles are exterior angles. So what are those angles here? Angle 1, angle 2, angle 7, angle 8. Okay, how many interior angles are there? How many exterior angles are there? In totally we have that 8 angles will be formed by a transversal. Okay, why? Because the two straight lines are there and the transversal cuts the two straight lines. That's why here 8 angles will be formed. How many interior angles are there? 4 interior angles are there. How many exterior angles are there? Here 4 exterior angles are there. Okay, in totally 8 angles will be formed here. Okay, next one, co-interior angles. Co-interior angles. So co-interior angles means what? Okay, here onwards the pairs of angles we need to take. So co-interior means here we need to follow that instructions. Okay, both the angles lies. Both the angles lie same side of a transversal. Same side of a transversal. That is the first point we need to follow. And the second one is both the angles must be interior. Both the angles are interior angles. Okay, why? Because both the angles are interior. Why we are saying that? In that name only given, in that heading only given, that is co-interior. Co means side by side, we know that. And here interior, interior means angles which lies inside. That's why here the angles which lies inside of that lines. So, and in the same way here we need to follow that these two instructions. So what is that first one? Both the angles lies the same side of a transversal, either right side or left side. Okay, so see that. Once observe here, interior angles only, no? So just observe that interior angles only, these angles only lies that same side of a transversal. So left side of the transversal we have here 3 and 6. So angle 3, angle 6. Once observe that angle 3 and angle 6, those two also lies same side of a transversal. Okay, so first one completed. And the second one, both the angles must be interior. That one also satisfying here. Angle 3 and angle 6, those two also interior angles only, no? So we will call that angle 3 and angle 6 are co-interior angles. And the most important thing, co-interior means both the angles we are saying, which means that is a pair of angles. Co-interior means pair of angles here we need to write. Okay, another pair, what is that? That is the right side angle. Angle 4 and angle 5. Angle 4 and angle 5 also lies that right side of the transversal, right? And those two also interior angles only. So we will call these are co-interior angles. Okay.